Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. Just a real quick video to kind of explain the differences between the self-directed one-member LLC Roth versus the precious metal Roth. Now I have to admit, initially I was a big advocate of the one-member LLC Roth simply because doing that kind of work has always been in my background and it's no problem. But what we have found is for some people it's extremely difficult to be able to maintain that, and we found some real advantages to doing the precious metal Roth. So I wanted to take a moment to explain to you the differences of them all and how they work. So the self-directed one-member LLC Roth, the process to establish it. First of all, you need a custodial service able to provide a self-directed IRA option. Locating that is not necessarily an easy process. The self-directed IRA is established, funded, and made ready. The self-directed IRA LLC is created in a selected state as a business LLC owned by the Roth. The LLC then establishes a bank account in the name of the LLC, and the operational agreement is drafted and accepted by the custodial for the LLC to do investing on behalf of the self-directed IRA. Now the funds to populate the self-directed IRA are sent to the custodial service. You do not put them directly into the LLC bank account. The funds are limited to the restrictions from the IRS, which is $5K if you're under 50, $6K if you're over 50, and must be from actively earned funds, or an IRA can be rolled over to the Roth if desired, but there are some taxable consequences. Once the funds are in the LLC bank account, they're made available for investing, and the IQD is purchased from the funds in the LLC bank account. The IQD is delivered to you for storage. Now, the custodial service, in order to maintain this, may require payment for their services. Of course they will. And the LLC will need to be renewed each year, and the LLC requires a registered agent. So if you're not the agent, a proxy will need to be paid for that role. The bank account may require maintenance, minimums, or payments. The IQD will need to be stored safely, a bank box, personal safe, locked drawer, coffee can buried in the backyard, somewhere. It just needs to be kept safe. And the process for cashing in is fairly simple. The IQD is cashed in at a location with access to your LLC bank account. Remember, if you cash it just straight out and then move the USD into your LLC bank account, you have a taxable event. Either the bank you've established or an IQD exchange center can help you with that. The funds are deposited into your LLC bank account, obviously, and if the requirements for aging have been met, remember it's 5 years of aging and you're 59 and a half, the desired funds are sent to the custodial service, who then verifies it and clarifies it for the IRS. And the custodial service acknowledges the value, and the funds are sent to your personal bank account by wire or mailed as a check to you. If the requirements of the aging have not been met, so the 5 years has not been met or you are not 59 and a half, the IQD can be exchanged at your elected price at the bank hosting your LLC bank account or at an exchange service provider. The funds can stay in your account, in your LLC bank account, until the aging requirements are met, or they can be invested in other options with the same tax-free benefit with the aging requirements are met. Now here's the advantages of a one-member LLC Roth. The funds are managed by the Roth manager, which is you, via checkbook control. The IQD can be purchased by the self-directed IRA Roth LLC bank account from nearly any source. Not yourself. You can't sell the IQD that you have directly or from an immediate family member. The disadvantages: it is complex and expensive to set it up. It also requires a lot of steps. The annual fees for the LLC and registered agent for at least a minimum of 5 years are going to have to be met, or longer if you're underage, and the maintenance fee of the bank account, the safety and storage of the IQD on hand, and compared to the precious metal Roth. And we're going to go over the process to establish it. One more time, it's pretty much the same. You have to find a custodial service able to provide a precious metal Roth option. The precious metal Roth is established, funded, and ready. It's a series of paperwork. You send the money. A certified vaulting service is located and an account is established. This is one of the options that most people have difficulty locating. We do have one. I'm going to show it to you in a little bit here. The funds to populate the Roth with IQD are sent to the custodial service. You don't buy them directly. The funds are limited to the restrictions of the IRS as they were previously, the 5K if you're under 50, 6K if you're over. An IQD dealer is selected by you. The custodial service purchases the IQD on behalf of the Roth. The IQD is sent to the vaulting service. An IRA, one more time, can be rolled over to the Roth if desired, but there are some taxable consequences. Now, the process to maintain it is different than it is with the other one. The custodial service has an annual fee, which is the same. They both have the same thing. The vaulting service has an annual fee, and these fees can be combined and paid by your custodial service, so there's just one annual payment if desired. They can be contributed to as desired within the limitations of the IRS, which we talked about earlier. Now, the process to cashing in for the precious metal Roth looks like this. The vaulting service is contacted by you when the rate is acceptable. Remember, you're the captain of your ship. You decide when that's going to work for you. The vaulting service freezes the rate with the bank. So if the rate is something that you like, you call them, they contact the bank, and it's frozen. The exchange of the IQD is handled by the vaulting service on your behalf. You're not having to pack up your IQD and go somewhere and be exposed for that. The funds are sent to the custodial service payment to you, or invest in other options available under the precious metal limitations. By that I'm talking about you can have your IQD exchanged for USD and then buy precious metals and leave it in the account. A self-directed IRA can be established to invest your funds in customary investment options afterwards. The advantages. Well, the cost is minimal, to tell you the truth. There's no maintenance of an LLC or a separate bank account for a minimum of 5 years. The cashing in is done on your behalf. I like that a lot. There's a lot of security in that one. The IQD is safely stored and insured. Not like storing it in your house and then you get robbed or gets burnt down. The transportation to the bank is done by armored car and insured. The funds are electronically sent with no exposure to possible losses of the physical currency. The disadvantages. Okay, the IQD is not in your immediate possession. The IQD in your Roth must be purchased from a licensed dealer. You cannot use the IQD in your possession to populate your precious metal Roth. The custodial service cannot purchase IQD from a private individual for your precious metal Roth. So selling your personal IQD to an associate for repurchase isn't an option. It is with the other. So here's the big differences. Self-directed IRA, one member LLC Roth. It's complex to set up and maintain. The IQD is in your hands, but it's not insured and can be used for other investments for the Roth. A precious metal Roth is simple to set up and maintain. The IQD is secure and insured, and limited investment options after the RV, but it can be rolled over to a self-directed IRA later. Now, once you've elected to use the precious metal Roth option, first of all, the process to start your precious metal Roth still begins with the selection of a custodial service that provides that option. The selection of the IQD dealer should be based on the lowest price available. Circulated IQD is just as valuable as uncirculated, and it's cheaper to purchase. We can provide you with a list of dealers for their current pricing. If you elect to sell some of your IQD to populate your Roth, you may want to privately announce its availability or consider using eBay. Once you sell your privately held IQD, you can then purchase your Roth IQD from a licensed dealer for your Roth. Now, the vaulting services. Now, per requirements of the precious metal Roth, the IQD must be purchased directly from the custodial services. The IQD must be purchased from a licensed dealer of your choice. You pick which one you want. The IQD is sent directly from the dealer to the vaulting service of your choice. Now, the vaulting service bills you for its services directly, and the fee is usually around $100 a year. The IQD storage and transportation is insured, and the IQD is stored in segregated accounts to ensure integrity of your deposit. Now, what that means is that your IQD, the actual physical currency, has a picture taken of it. It's sent to you, so that way you have an imagery to store in your stuff there, and it's not just dumped in a pool of other IQD. It's safely stored separately. And it's available for exchange upon your request. You're the captain of your ship, guys. So exchanging your IQD through the vaulting service looks like this. Now, the exchange of your IQD depends entirely on your selection of the rate value. They don't do that for you. The IQD is procured from your segregated account, all or part, depending upon your desires when you want to make the exchange. The IQD is shipped to your selected exchange provider. That can be the original dealer or bank of your choice. One more time, make some calls. Find out what those rates look like. The shipping is done by Armored Vehicle or other licensed carrier services, and it's still insured for the value. The exchange can be returned in active currencies, USD or other currencies, or digitally transmitted to your selected recipient service, back to the vaulting service or your custodial service provider. One of the premier and highly recommended services is Idaho Armored Vaults. Now, it's used by most of the precious metal Roth custodial service providers. For the price of vaulting your IQD, which like I said is $100 a year, you have secure and insured storage. The exchange rate is frozen when you call in. Your IQD can be transported to your selection of exchange providers in secure and insured manner. And you can avoid the anticipated hassle of transporting your IQD and dealing with the exchange provider yourself. You can select your exchange provider based on exchange rates. That's up to you. You have to determine that. You can elect what to do with your exchange funds. What do you want to accomplish with it? So in conclusion, after working with both of these for quite a while, and I have for several years now, yes, I believe that the precious metal Roth is a better option for most IQD investors. It's easier than the setup maintenance of the self-directed IRA LLC option. The cost for the custodial service is close to the same for both options, and the vaulting service is really relatively inexpensive considering the value and security and insurance. Now, Max Plans for Life can assist you in setting up your IQD Roth, also your digitalized gifting assignments and your Chettle Remainder Unit Trust. That's all part of the services that we have available. Now, for more information on Max Plans, go to maxplansforlife.com. Now, I have a short interview with Bob Coleman from the Idaho Armored Vaults, which will be following this particular presentation. At the conclusion, please feel free to review this again if you'd like, and I would highly recommend that you seriously consider using the precious metal accounts for your Roth IQD.
Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. Welcome. We have a really unique interview this afternoon available to us. On the phone with me today is Bob Coleman from Idaho Armored Vaults. Now, this is going to be one of a series of interviews we'll be conducting here in a little while. He's got some other information we're going to share. But today, primarily, what I'd like to do is have him talk about the armored services, the vaulting services in particular for the IQD. So, Bob, hello, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
Not hard to get our names straight, is it?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. All righty. So I've asked Bob to come on board today simply to explain how the armored services or the depository services available for IQD work. So, Bob, if you want to take just a moment kind of explain how that process functions for them getting their IQD to you.
Sure. There's a couple of different ways, depending on the type of account the client's looking at opening. For private individuals looking for currency accounts, they would simply just contact us directly, talk to me or anyone of our staff, and then we can instruct them to ship the product over to us in terms of address, that type of thing. And then they just open an account either through the website or we can email them our storage agreement. If it's an account that's more of an IRA where they're going through an intermediary, like a self-directed IRA custodian, there they would actually go through that self-directed IRA custodian to open up their normal IRA account and then contact us for information on setting up the account for really on their behalf for their IRA. They would basically, they could go online, download our storage agreement, send that storage agreement back to their self-directed IRA custodian because their IRA custodian has to sign off on it, and then their IRA custodian would actually then send us the storage agreement with their account number at their self-directed IRA custodian. A fairly simple process, and then at that point we would just mirror their account number to make life a little easier.
All right, well that's great. One of the questions that people are asking me, okay, so we go through this process, they've got their IRA set up, they've got the agreements completed, and now they're going to send you dinar, okay? Now, I understand that the custodial services obviously is going to be the entity who's going to purchase the dinar from whatever source the client picks, and then that's going to come to you.
Correct. Yeah. Once they find a dealer to go ahead and purchase the dinar, they would instruct. They could actually lock in that transaction with that dealer, send the instructions or that bi-directional letter over to their self-directed IRA custodian. The custodian would then give instructions to the dealer to go ahead and ship out that product directly to us, so it doesn't have to go to the client itself. Makes it a little bit easier, and obviously they don't have any type of a situation of receiving an IRA distribution. But once we receive that dinar, typically the dealer will put in a packing slip that explains who that product belongs to. We will go ahead and then inventory in that product, take pictures of it, and then we'll send the client as well as the self-directed IRA custodian the pictures as well as the inventory report. Currently, I think we're the only facility in the country that on a standardized basis does that type of detailed work.
Okay, awesome. So when you receive the dinar and you take the picture, you ship it off to them, where's the actual storage?
It's at our facility. So everything we do, we're kind of a unique facility. Everything we do is fully segregated. So when the client actually sets up an account through us, that dinar that's received in for their account is the exact same dinar they're going to get back either on a distribution or a settlement if they want to sell it back to a dealer. But it'll be completely separated and identified from every other client in the facility, even within IRA clients within that self-directed IRA custodian. The nice thing about that is it provides or limits the ability if we receive in, for instance, a counterfeit dinar or tampered product, that product stays with that specific client that product was received in for. It would never go into general population.
Okay, very well. All right, so they're ready to cash in. Okay, now if it's in an IRA, they're going to. What are the steps that go from there? They're ready to cash in.
Typically, what would happen is it would kind of act in reverse. If they would contact a dealer per se to try and get some bids, if there's some type of revaluation or some type of if it was on the exchange and the price was attractive to the client to go ahead and sell. But at that point, it's just a matter of contacting a dealer, or they could contact us. We have quite a few dinar clients that store with us, and we've talked with the banks as well in terms of the ability to liquidate if that ever became I would say a normal currency like the yen or the British pound. Typically, once that is fully traded amongst banks, we can then actually send that into the bank on behalf of the client to go ahead and settle that trade as well. It'd just be basically a swap for dinar for currency. And then we would go ahead and send the transaction back to the self-directed IRA custodian. Or in some instances, some clients that may want precious metals, since we get into precious metals, they may want to swap out of that currency for precious metals. So there's some different types of ideas that the client has or different options that they may be presented with.
Okay. All right. Now, let's say, for example, the client decides they're going to send their dinar and return it back to the dealer in which they got it from. How are those funds sent?
Typically, we have shipper's insurance, so we can actually ship it back fully insured. There's a cost to do that, of course, but we can insure the package from point to point if it needs to be sent back to the dealer or if it needs to be delivered to a bank. We have armored transportation as well that's fully insured, so if we need to courier it to the bank or if it has to be sent to a financial center or some type of processing center amongst the bank, we can do that as well. But if it's a dealer per se, it would just basically be sent back to the dealer with the adult signature required, so the dealer would have to sign for the product when they receive it in. That way we know the product's been received.
Okay, all righty. Now, I also understand from our previous conversations that you have a resource with Chase Bank, which is near you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you explain that little bit of relationship or how that would work if the money was going from, or the IQD was going from you to Chase Bank?
Typically, if the client wanted to sell it and if the bank's became, if they had an active trading desk in the dinar or other currencies, the banks typically will be able to, I guess you could exchange is the word, that currency for dollars, whether it's in electronic form or physical form. Typically, like talking with the larger banks out there, and they typically are active with euros and British pounds and Japanese yen. Typically, they'll just credit the account instead of issuing actual physical dollars. And then what we would do is just take that through our registered investment advisory firm. We would then send those dollars back to the client or to the self-directed IRA custodian. It's a simplified form, but typically most clients, if they want to, they could just give me a call and I could walk them through that process.
Okay, very well. So one of the recommendations that we had a conversation about is when this thing comes to fruition, somewhere along the line, that the comparing of what the transaction rates are going to be, the spreads between the different places. Have you heard anything on that as far as ideas of what that was going to look like?
We have a lot of clients that store with us, so it seems like there's a lot of, I guess, groups that kind of monitor that situation. We don't really get into that until there's actually concrete something being traded, and the banks we can actually talk to and they can verify and they actually provide quotes. It's very difficult to come up with any type of, I guess you could say, speculate on any type of cross transaction rate, that type of thing.
Okay. All right, and that's what I expected also. Okay, well, Bob, I think we pretty much covered it. Anything in addition you'd like to add before we close up our interview today?
Sure. For currency storage, our rates are simply just $100 a year, and that's for fully segregated and fully insured storage. So it's not very expensive at all for the client. That way, and we just simply bill $25 per quarter. So it's, if the client ends up only staying here for 6 months out of the year, they're not paying for full years of storage.
Excellent. Is it possible for them to use that save account to put their personal dinar into as well?
Yeah, they could set up a separate account for personal or private storage. You typically want to keep your IRA storage and your private storage completely separate. You don't want to commingle the two assets because it could then be it could violate that arm's length transaction. But yeah, it certainly
Absolutely.
certainly could do that.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, Bob, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. Folks, this is from Idaho Armored Vaults. Looks like it's a real winning opportunity for me. Anyhow, thanks again, Bob. And I know we'll have a conversation a little bit later on because I want to learn more about the precious metal options that are available, and we'll go from there.
Sure. And if the clients or if anyone wants to look at our website, it's www.goldsilvervault.com, VAULT.
Okay.